Welcome to This Podcast is Making Me Thirsty, the number one destination for Seinfeld fans. This is Two Up and Two Down. Here's our producer, Chris, to start us off.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Two Up and Two Down. And I think we got a good one here, the alternate side from season 3. So, Tony, why don't you start us off with the first up?
The alternate side, season 3, Bill Masters and Larry David, one of our favorite guests of all time, Bill Masters. I think I've ranked this number one. I think maybe in our original rankings. I mean, I've gone back and forth on my favorite of all time. This is up there at times. We'll get there. Obviously, I don't want to put the cart before the horse here, but it's going to be obvious. My first up for the phone message. My first up for the alternate side is one of the all-time scenes of all time. She brings Owen March in, they put him on the couch and they just let Kramer and Jerry and Elaine go at it. I mean, the three of them, there's not very often was the three of them in a scene together, just back and forth. Raise the feet, bring blood to the head. No, raise the head, bring blood to the feet. What's an extremity? That's what you do for a drug overdose. How you didn't drop acid when you weren't looking? I mean, everything they say. You can't liquefy a cookie. I don't have a blender. The whole back and forth. Kramer with the belt, takes the belt off. Guy the whole time he was laying on the couch. You got to give Owen Marsh some credit there. Letting them do their thing the whole time while they're just running around, trying to figure things out. That scene, when you watch that scene live, you are riveted. What is going on right now? This is an NBC sitcom. They got a guy having a stroke on the couch and running around. The whole dropped acid line slipped in there. I feel like Larry Charles has something to do with that, even though he didn't write this episode. It seems like his kind of thing. Just an unbelievable scene. An all-time scene. I have to give that an up. I have a bunch written down, but that's the one I'm going to pull out for my first one because to me, that kind of keeps this episode really, really like. If that scene wasn't there, this episode just doesn't have that extra jump and bump that it really needs. There is some stuff here where there could be considered lulls, if you will, things like that. But this scene just kind of bam, just comes at you with the three of them, each one of them perfectly doing what they do well. The K-Man, Elaine, and Jerry. That's my first up.
Yeah, definitely a great scene. So it deserves to be an up. And Chris, over to you. What's your first up?
Incredible. And, all you trivia fans out there, we know Jerry didn't like that scene. He had an issue with it. We know. But I know Tony's got plenty of. So I'm going to take, what Mark Hirschfeld, what a job. When you land Sid, there's no better guest character. I put him up there with anybody. The whole, next Wednesday, this Wednesday. And I'm with Sid on that. If I'm this Wednesday, I would have said this Wednesday. Next Wednesday. So this is incredible. Sid yelling at George, who's putting your pants on? For me, yes, Sid was just incredible. Packed a punch. We see him come later, but in this episode, he painted that picture of just what he was, right? He was that trusted friend, that trusted neighbor guy in the building. And hey, was he left the keys in the car? Obviously, it's almost like, an athlete later in the career. Was he losing his step? But then, the young rookie comes in, George, and totally screws everything up. And that's where you need that reliable Sid. So he made you laugh. He made you feel warm inside because you can relate to that kind of guy. So for me, Sid, without a doubt, first up.
Yeah, Sid played by the late great Jay Brooks there. So excellent up there. So Tony, back to you. What's your second up?
My question to you is, who's putting your pants on? George, I don't get the whole thing about the pants. It's great. Unbelievable. Sid O'Hara hit the nail on the head with Sid. I wrote down big up for Sid. My next up, and this is in Seinfeld lore, one of those scenes that everyone, O'Hara talks about this a lot with relatability. Does it get any better than the reservation conversation? As far as Seinfeld goes, it might be one of the most quoted, happenstances, relatability type situations you're ever going to see. And it all starts with this. To take a reservation, you just hold a reservation. I don't think you do, he says. And then they go in the back and they're talking, and Jerry does his thing with Elaine. Just what Jerry's stand up is, observational. I mean, this scene is it right there. They put you right there with we've all been, every time you rent a car there, I rented this. We don't have that. We'll give you this instead. What is a reservation there for then? I mean, Jerry just nails it. The whole thing. You better give me the insurance. I'm going to beat the crap out of this. He tells the lady just right to the point. Just unbelievable. While they're there, I love the Jerry line. I hate everyone. Why do people say that? You like this person, you'll like him. Who says that? I hate everyone. Just really sets that up, and the whole, Elaine's dating the older man. He's very vibrant. Would you date an older woman? Jared, you have to be real vibrant. She'd have to be spinning, he says. I mean, that whole conversation leading up to the reservation stuff is great. I mean, there's times where you do a Jerry Elaine conversation in a store or something like that. It's more like filler. And especially early on episodes where it's, maybe doesn't hit the ball out of the park, but this does. I mean, they don't waste anything leading up to the counter and then the whole reservation stuff. That's my second up.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the top 10 all-time scenes is the car rental scenes there. So, Chris, over to you. What's your second up?
Agreed. And I love you mentioned the conversation weaved into that. You'd like him. So relatable, right? Like my wife always says, some other husband, you'd like him. He likes, no, I wouldn't. So, it happens all the time. Everyone can relate to it. Unbelievable stuff. And listen, folks, I got to do it. And listen, this podcast isn't called No Soup for You, okay? It's called This Podcast Make Me Thirsty, okay? So these pretzels are making me thirsty. That theme, talk about not overdoing it and just the perfect push on it when needed. But obviously, we'll kick off with that opening scene when Kramer comes in and tells everybody he got the job on Woody Allen. You can see George's frustration and it just seems so genuine, like Jerry and Elaine smiling, wow, their friend getting in a movie, and then obviously him sharing the line and each of them doing these pretzels are making me thirsty. Just what can you say? I mean, the number one podcast in America is named after it. Okay, incredible line. We talked with Masters. You mentioned Larry Charles. Larry Charles actually pushed Masters to actually move forward with a lot of ideas from this episode. So, again, this is season 3. All these guys were involved in these episodes, from Charles to Masters to David, obviously to Jerry himself. And no more popular line than these pretzels are making me thirsty. Just every time they touched on it, even at the end, incredible. So, second up.
Absolutely. You had to go there. So, yeah, definitely an up for that line. All right, Tony, let's do the downs now. What's your first one?
Yeah, I mean, downs were tough to come by, but, there are a few, and they're not going to be major, but they are there, right? And we got to find them. That's what this is all about. So while we only could cram in 2 ups each, we also got to find 2 downs. My downs are mainly lines. That's usually what happens in these good episodes. I can also go somewhere else, but I want to stick to the episode. I got 2 here that I'm kind of toggling between. It's almost an up. That's why I don't want to say this one. So, man, that's tough. The downs are tough on this one. 2 of my downs are almost ups, to be honest with you. I'm going to go this quick one, and it's a weird one because it's one of those that O'Hara likes to say, you got to look at it as is. So I'm not going to use it, actually. Let me go here. I'm going to go here because on the rewatch, I always forget about this scene and this line, and watching it this time, I'm like, oh, there's my down. I got to find downs. Can you overdose on odor? Can you die from odor? If you're locked in a vomitorium, would you die? They just needed a filler, I guess. It's the final scene. They're the rest of that scene's great. A cup of coffee should cover it. Kramer comes in with the gloves, slams him down. I just don't know about the vomitorium stuff. I mean, anything else. I mean, it just seemed like one of those let's throw something in here like a funny conversation, kind of the stuff that the cold opens will eventually become. I mean, yes, is it that bad? I don't know. It's more dumb than anything else. So I got to find downs, and that's really it. Can you overdose on odor? Can you die from odor? Good question. No, vomitorium. I don't know. It's not a good question. It's kind of silly. I mean, maybe it ties into the BO stuff, but I don't know. I don't love it. So I got to find downs here. That's where I'm going.
Yeah, that particular line in conversation, this was out of nowhere, out of left field. So yeah, it didn't seem to fit with the rest of the episode. So that's a good point. Chris, over to you. What's your first down?
Yeah, and I have a small line too. I'm not going to. I'll share it, but when George after Sid, maybe I can call my father.
That was my other one I wrote down. Yeah, I wrote that down. I was going to use it.
It's not. It's why, but. I'm going to go with the scene I never loved. And then on the rewatch, I actually timed it. The Owen Yankee Bean scene. I mean, it was 2 minutes and 20 seconds. This is an all-time episode. When you get all-time, you got to just get tight with some of this stuff, and stuff that just drags on. Yeah, it's hard to watch. And it was at the end, thankfully. But that never sat well with me. And, all his facial expressions, Owen, I don't know. I didn't need it. I know people love it. Just it never sat well with me. They could have done that 30 seconds, her doing a little Yankee Bean feeding him. But over 2 minutes in a 22-minute episode, that's a long time. And there was so much packed in this episode. Like, they could have made this a little longer, that a little, all right? So much there. So for me, the Yankee Bean stuff, first down.
I'll agree with that one too. So, Tony, we'll just go right back to you. What do you got for your second down?
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I agree with that, and I think there's a few spots where that happens, and I think my down is another spot where it happens with the car phone calling. That also kind of dragged. But it's interesting because when we talked to Melman, I believe he mentioned, these earlier seasons, they let things breathe more. The scenes were longer. It might have been Kaiser. Someone we spoke to kind of brought that up as, later seasons, it was quick. These did some of the, and it could be a little bit too much to Harris' point. I love the Yankee Bean scene, but I can see that it does drag on. Yes, she does go on with the subway stuff. I think the calling of the guy on the phone, who by the way is Larry David's voice. Obviously, everyone knows that out there. But yeah, it's, I didn't know it was your car, and they went a little far on that too. That's going to be my down is to Harris' point. I mean, here's the thing: I can make Yankee Bean an up, and I can make the call to the car phone guy an up. But to Harris' point, they both drag a little bit, which sort of starts to bring them down when he's trying to find downs in this episode. And so I get that. I think I see where he's going with that, and I'm gonna use it for the calling of the phone guy. He's stealing the car, the whole thing there, and he calls back to the Froster. They carried it out even then, but that conversation went a little too long as well. So that's my second down.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'll take that scene over the Yankee Bean scene. So, but anyway, Chris, over to you. What's your second down here?
Agreed. Not a lot of downs. Okay. So if I'm going to take a shot, I'm going to take a shot at the editor, Janet. And I don't think a lot of people picked up on this, but I remember this a while ago, and I remember rewatching it, had to rewind. And again, editing is a big part of the show. When they're talking about Sid in the early scene there, if you remember, in Jerry's apartment, the door is closed. They're talking about Sid. The same scene, all of a sudden, Sid walks in, door's open. No one opened the door. Small things, okay? So I blame Janet for that. She's never going to come on the program anyway, so I don't mind saying that. We're a Skip Collector guy here, for sure. A great editor later years. But for that, just fix that. Fix the editing. Make the door open, or or have someone open it, have Sid knock. He just walked in. So check that out, folks.
Good point there. Maybe we'll have like a George Lucas come in and, do some special effects and make that door closed. All right. So that's the 2 ups and 2 downs from each of you guys. So let's, Tony, over to you. What do you got for grades and your final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot here. Another scene, but just to touch on a down, is when they're looking at Owen Marsh and where's the eyebrows, the slippers. Yeah, it could have been a down too. I mean, there was a little bit of dead spots, and that's what I mean by that one scene I gave it up to. That just blasts the whole episode out of the water. You got George running in like a madman. You got the Sid stuff that O'Hara mentioned. This episode is O'Hara talks about this all the time, all four cylinders. I mean, Kramer's amazing in this. And each one of them, their characters are epitomized in this episode. And this is season 3. Kramer falls ass backwards into a Woody Allen movie out of nowhere, right? George is running around like a madman. Loser George can't get anything right, smashing cars, Elaine, I like the Yankee Bean scene. I thought she delivered in that. I thought her and the Kramer and Jerry scene I mentioned earlier is great. Each one of them doing the pretzels making me thirsty, like O'Hara mentioned. So much great Jerry in this episode. The face-to-face breakup line, that's very early season Seinfeld stuff with tub is love and all that kind of stuff. And oh yeah, you got to do a face-to-face. You did it 6 times if you had sex. You mean a career? He says to Kramer. All these community, I had no idea. Love that Jerry line. Other drivers, that's who's driving the car. I mean, very good Jerry writing. The writing in this is unbelievable by Larry David and Masters. The fact that Jerry doesn't like this episode is ridiculous. The guy kills Susan, doesn't have a problem with that. I mean, all the other shit that happens in this show, all of a sudden you're going to worry about this guy getting a stroke and everything else. I mean, come on, Jerry. Let's get real here. The whole show is based on fucking with people, the handicap lady, everything else, like all of a sudden we're going to get mad about this one. Like it's funny, and this is funny. I mean, this is as good as it gets. The alternate side's an A+. I don't care how you slice it. I'll go down with that ship. As O'Hara mentioned, the podcast, obviously the namesake, no doubt about it. A nearly flawless episode. Our downs are just maybe it wasn't tight enough, but that's not easy to do. And that's also on Janet, by the way, too. That's what editors do. They kind of chop those things up. So while we're knocking her, let's knock her one more time. A+ for the alternate side.
All right. Yeah, I knew this was a good episode, and Tony validates that as an A+. So, Chris, give us your final thoughts and grades here.
Yeah, I mean, wonderful all-time episode. You mentioned Jerry, the ambulance scene. Tell him to hurry. It's an ambulance. I mean, great line. I mean, he didn't have any bad lines. I mean, listen, I crashed your car. Yeah, cup of coffee should cover it. I mean, I love that one, I mean, just incredible stuff. Sid, the opening scene, George wearing the Met hat with the Broadway Bound shirt. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Unbelievable stuff. It's an A+. I mean, Tony nailed every point. All 4 on all 4 cylinders. Kramer's Kramer. George is jobless. Jerry, I mean, this might be Jerry's best episode. I mean, he was kind of I talk about him being a quarterback, but he was like Montana in this one. I mean, he was delivering on his own, without the help of others, which is really impressive. Obviously, the rental cars all time. These pretzels are all time. Our downs are down. And Bill Masters, wonderful guest. Check out his podcast with us. He breaks this down. And even the ending, I love the way it ended. I mean, Kramer got the gloves, right? In only the way Kramer can. The guy gets fired, but he's got those brown gloves from the glove compartment. So unbelievable stuff. A+, hands down.
There you go, folks. A+ for both Tony and Chris here. So appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll see you guys on the next one.